Welcome back to Network to Net Worth, where we dive deep into the networking journeys of extraordinary people, the connections that change everything, the relationships that open doors, and the one person who made all the difference. I'm your host, Guy Dunn, the career networker, and I am beyond excited about today's conversation. Every episode of this show, I get to ask the same powerful question: who helped you and how? Because success is never a solo journey. Behind every breakthrough, every promotion, every business deal, there's a network of people who believed, who connected, who opened doors. And today's guest, well, he's living proof of what happens when you master the art of networking and combine it with purpose, faith, and relentless action. With us today is a man known for his infectious energy and a signature bow tie. Dr. Willie Tolbert is a renowned business coach, author, and catalyst for transformation who has helped countless people find their purpose, build successful businesses, and protect their legacy. For over 30 years, Willie has been empowering individuals and businesses to achieve their God given potential. He's the creator of the Guy with the Bow Tie Academy, where he helps entrepreneurs and leaders build for success through courses like Networking for Success and Building Your Nonprofit. He holds a PhD in business administration and a Doctor of Theology degree. He's been a pastor for over 30 years, and he's been married to his wonderful wife, Mamie, for 49 years. Talk about a lasting partnership. Please give a warm welcome to the guy with the bow tie and the man behind the Bow Tie Academy, Dr. Willie Tolbert.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Hey, listen, man, I am doing wonderfully, and I am like so excited to be able to finally interview you. So you know what? We're going to get right into it, man.
Awesome.
So Willie, I'm so glad you're here. Before we dive into the Bow Tie Academy and all the incredible work you're doing, I want to take our listeners back to the beginning because this show is all about networking journeys, the path that got you here. Take me back take me back to where you started to really make connections and the thing that showed you that networking was something that you really needed to master.
No, I appreciate that question, sir. And I thank you for having me on your program today because you are renowned yourself. So I'm honored to be with you. But to answer your question, it actually really goes back before I knew what the word networking was. I just basically started out when I was like in my teens, uh, introducing people to other people. My mother would bake cakes and I would find out that she was only getting a few bucks for them. And I said, "No, mom, I can help you get this out there." And I would go out there and just really didn't even know what the word marketing was. I just started talking. And next thing I know, she was getting more orders than I could personally fill. And so, but it just came as a result of that. It's like it was who do you know? Who do you know? And it just kept building. And then I've learned what networking was, and I just focused on how can I enhance and sharpen my tools.
Wow. So basically, it sounds like you just had a natural tendency to start talking to people and building those relationships.
Yes, yes, yes. And it comes from a premise, being the oldest of eight, it comes from a premise of be kind to everybody, don't burn your bridges, and you never know who you're going to need to be a part of your next miracle.
Wow. Eight, and you had eight siblings. So that's a big thing. being able to manage that whole process. You being the oldest, I know I'm the middle child, so I'm the I call myself the well-adjusted middle child, and the youngers and the olders, they're all crazy. uh, but listen, that's powerful. Now you've been a pastor for over 30 years, and you have a PhD in business administration and a doctorate in theology. That's a unique combination. How did those two worlds, faith and business, come together for you early on?
Well, actually, it really was a great transition. It was really seamless because I realized that as a pastor, it was important for those I was privileged to serve in our congregation that were entrepreneurs, that they had a leader who understood business, who understand the ups, the downs, the good days, the bad days, and how to handle challenges. But also in the same token, being an entrepreneur and I call it a kingdom marketeer, it was important to me to realize, how do my faith help me succeed? And one of the greatest networkers that I've ever known was really Jesus.
I oh, you said a whole lot there, brother. You said a whole lot there. Um, so here's a big question: the heart of what we do on the show. In the early days, who was the person who helped you? Who saw something in you, opened the door, and made a connection or gave you advice that basically helped you, that changed your trajectory? Who helped you and how?
I'm going back now. Now you're going to start telling my age because of
That's
what
okay.
I'm about to say, which
Listen,
is,
the
I'm good
older
with that.
the older we are, the more experience, the more wisdom, the
Yeah.
more we are. That's the way I look
Yeah.
at it.
Yes. No, no, I appreciate that. Actually, I go back to a gentleman. He was on my mother's side of the family, and we called him Cousin Chitty. Cousin Chitty owned a barber shop. And so my first inroads to working was at his barbershop. Ready for this? Shining shoes.
Okay.
I was probably at that time of maybe 13, 14, working on Saturdays because I was in school the rest of the week, but I would go there, shine shoes. And when you ask that question, it made me think about, he really jolted me because he let me know it wasn't about getting outside the house. It wasn't just coming there, goofing off, just talking to people, but he wanted me to be focused on why was I there. And shining shoes, anyone that's from our generation would appreciate this. I learned rather what it meant to do spit shine, soul dressing, how to buff, and what follows what steps, and
Hmm.
how to enable that individual that walked out of there to be proud of their experience as a result of dealing with this shoe shine guy.
Excellent. Listen, man, I understand that working with and for family. I grew up in the family business, so I understand the values that you're taught when you work with a family member who's serious about being in business. And my father, he was very serious about being in business. And I mean, he actually, him and his brother and his sister started a company to make sure that all of his children and his brothers and sisters' children, my cousins, all were able to go to college, and we all were because of that.
Awesome.
Um, And so obviously they taught you about the power of doing a good job. They also teach you about the power of connecting with those people and developing relationships so they always want to come back.
Yes, and that was important because remember, this is a Saturday morning. How many people actually wear dress shoes on a Saturday morning coming to a barbershop?
Right.
So it really took a lot of creativity. It took a lot of the older gentlemen who were coming there because they didn't wear sneakers like they do now,
Of course.
and I do have a little challenge with that too, because yeah. Anyway, but they realized, wait a minute, here's this young man. He's trying to make a difference. He's making an impact. And how can I help them? Now, I will tell you, I couldn't goof, as I stated earlier, I couldn't goof off. Plus, not only was my cousin Chitty important to me, but it was also my father.
Okay.
He laid it down. One, he says, ain't no man laying up on me. I was like, okay. He taught us principles there and the importance of, he says, be yourself, but be your best self. So whenever we went out the house, we had to know who we were representing.
Got, got you. Willie, 30 years is a long time to be actively building relationships and helping people. I imagine your network today looks very different from when you started. Walk me through how you intentionally built your network over the decades. Were you always strategic about networking, or did that develop over time?
It really both. I was in the beginning. It was organic. Where it, hey, how you know? Oh, you need a plumber? Oh, you need an electrician? Hold on, let me call somebody. It started there, and then over time, I started formulating it where it would be more uniform, and so it got to a place where it just started happening.
Got you.
And I will tell you also, Guy, it's also you have to have the right personality because networking, just as you could draw people, you could
push them
repel
away.
people.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So that it's an art to it. But I want to be an encouragement to your audience because you may have someone that may consider themselves an introvert, and I want to demystify the myth that introverts can't be successful in networking because you can.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I love that, man. Um, and I see that you teach a course called Networking for Success at the Bowtie Academy.
Yes.
Um, First, how did that happen? I guess obviously you saw people who weren't doing it right. And what are the biggest mistakes you see people making when they're trying to network?
Well, one is taking the oxygen out the room. Giving an example, I never forget. I was on my way. I went to this particular network event. It was my first time with this particular group. And the moment I hit the door, somebody came at me and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. I mean, they was jumping down, trying to tell me what to do, trying to like absorb all the time. I'm like, whoa, because see, when I go in a room, I don't just go in to go in. I have a mindset. I got a strategy. I have a plan on how I want to approach the room. I have to size up the room. I have to look at who is it. I mean, this is what I teach, And so I hope your audience can understand my passion and drive for this because I've seen it. Your question, what kind of mistakes? I've seen it wherein one, they go with a truckload of business cards, and two, they want to collect a dumpster full of business cards. And I'm like, no, that's not how it goes. So these are strategies that I share. And then I work with an individual's personality because everybody is different. So I like to tailor it so that that individual can feel comfortable, whether they're just getting into networking or they're a seasoned networker or they just want to get back and use this term, get back in the game.
Right. I understand that very well because, a couple things is one, you want to give the energy that they give you. Okay. And hopefully you can kind of help to build up their energy to make them feel more comfortable. And then secondly, what I like to do, and I see you, I mean, you and me are very much alike because we do teach it in a way. I like to always start off with, how can I help you? Because that always disarms people, lets them let down their guard. And, you're coming to them with a positive spin on, this is what I do. And I want you to come, and let's see if we can do business. No, I always say, how can I help you? Tell me what what you do so I can figure out what's the best way I can do something for you. And I always work with the law of reciprocity, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, where if you
Yes.
give somebody something, especially when you first meet them, subconsciously, you get them to think that they want to do for you because you have already given them up front.
Correct. And to that point, I like to one look for that person who's in a corner by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I walk over to them because some people, like, we talk about, they don't know how to network. Sometimes they're at an event, maybe their business required them to be there. They're representing their company, So what do I do? So I'll walk up to a person. Here's one of my little trade secrets. I'll walk up to an individual and I say, "God, what is it about you that makes you such a celebrity? Everybody wants to get in this long line and get your autograph."
Nice. I like that. That's a great one.
Because I want them to feel important and valued. It's not about fluff, but it's about awakening the greatness that's inside of that individual.
Right. Especially if they feel kind of shy and subdued, you're basically now putting them on a pedestal. And it could be somewhat embarrassing, but at least it opens them up and lets them know that they're in a safe place.
Exactly. Exactly.
So let's get practical for our listeners. If someone is just starting out, maybe they're building a business, starting a nonprofit, or looking for a next opportunity, what are the three most important strategies they should focus on today?
Okay. One, you have to let people know your store is open. Make people aware that you have a business. But before that, you got to believe in what it is that you do. You
Mm-hmm.
may not have all the skill sets with, how to do certain things, but at least know your business, whether it's doing hair, doing nails, shining shoes, putting computers together. Know what you know. That's number one. Then number two, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, be a business owner, because I will tell you, it is not for the faint of heart. But you're going to need to have some fortitude, but that can grow over time. In other
Yep.
words, have tough skin. And then number three, realize that you may not be for everybody and be okay with that.
I hear you. That's great, man. That's gold right there, bro. Now, you mentioned your wife, Mamie, 49 years of marriage. Congratulations. I know my wife and I actually are 24. So we're half of what you and your wife have done. Okay. That's a partnership and a network in itself. So, how has your relationship with Mamie influenced your approach to networking and business?
Well, one, that's a whole program by itself,
I
but
know.
I'll give you a high level overview that use that terminology. One is, my wife is a true leader. So when you're talking to leaders in the house, it
Mm.
takes strategy, different personalities. So, but I've been able to learn that personality, learn that temperament. So when I'm out and about and I'm in the marketplace and I meet someone who may have, or let me say it this way, a couple of someones that may have that type of temperament and personality, I've learned in my interactions with my wife over these years how to interact with them. So then they're like, wow, yeah, they didn't realize I was getting tutored at home. So this is all good, but yet the same token, it's appreciating the value and the gift in the other person.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know,
Listen, I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, I'm sure you've had this situation. You and your wife go someplace and you meet somebody and you interact with them. And then afterwards you say, oh, he's a nice guy. She might say, yeah, but there's something about him you got to watch out. And because my wife has a very strong intuition about people, and listen, if she says that, my spidey sense starts to tingle because she knows, and she's only looking out for me. And I'm sure your wife is the same way. So whenever they
Yes.
say something like that, you're like, okay, let me put some pause on that relationship because she sees something I don't see.
Right. Right. And let me tell you, Guy, in full transparency, it takes a while to accept that because why? We are who we are.
Yep.
I'm saying so to have that balance, and that's what I appreciate about my wife, to have that balance to know. And then there are times wherein, I'll may say, well, because we have boundaries too, ourselves internally. And there's certain things you learn. When you start interacting with a lot of people, you start learning people. You start watching for traits. And I'll give you this one right here, right here. This will probably really make your audience like, whoa, what? So sometimes when I meet people, I just to kind of break the humor, I say, I really had to do my CIA, Homeland Security, and FBI due diligence because I wasn't sure if you were a stalker or a walker. So it's just that's the kind of, and that could go for male or female. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
right.
saying? So,
Tell me about it.
so yeah, no, no, yes, no, and that's important. And for those who may not have a significant other or spouse, you need that trusted friend who you can bounce things off and say, hey, I met this guy, I met this lady, in the don't move too fast, or okay, all right, because you'll know when you made a genuine connection. There's synergy
Hmm.
right there. You'll
Right.
know
And
that.
and I'm sure you're probably like a lot like me. We get enthusiastic about meeting people. And so
Yes.
it sometimes clouds our judgment because we're like serious. So I met this great person. They have a great opportunity to connect and we can do some things with them. And we get caught up in the idea of the opportunity. And like you said, we got to kind of put brakes on it because we know as the people that we are that way. So we got to make sure that like, all right, let me after you meet him one day, everything looks great. It said, all right, let me go back and do a mental overview of the conversation and make sure I ain't missed something because there may be some stuff. And then you, like you said, you do the due diligence to make sure that they're who they say they are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and I,
Go
I,
ahead.
I, I was good thinking as you were saying that. I'm thinking about, I call it the internet persona. In
Yes.
other words, on the internet, they like, oh man, I got to meet this person. And
Mm-hmm.
when you meet him in person, you be okay, gotcha.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, all righty there. That kind of thing.
So listen, over 30 years, you've made thousands of connections. Can you share a story about one connection, maybe someone unexpected who turned into a game changer from you, someone who helped you land a major opportunity, a client, or open the door you never saw coming?
Yes, I have numerous, but there's one that really sticks out. And that is, and I almost get emotional on this because I didn't realize how deep it was going to go. This gentleman who literally became my business coach. We were working in a similar company and he had an area of expertise. And I just wanted to sharpen my tools in that specific area. But after working with him and then he watching my development, he said, wait a minute, there's more to you than what most people have access to. So we started working. Well, let me tell you, because of that relationship, and we're probably going on like 8 years
Mm-hmm.
at least. And that has opened so many doors to where now a major door has opened for me, wherein not only do I have access to people who may need one of the resources that I'm able to provide, but it opened up a whole plethora of resource opportunities, not so much just to sell, but you said a key word, to serve.
Got you. That's great, man. Um, so let's talk about the guy with the bow tie academy. First of all, I have to ask you, what's the story behind the bow tie? Is there a deeper meaning, or was it just like, this is my fashion statement, I'm going to stick with it?
Well, it actually came about, it morphed. I'll say it that way. It over time. What happened was, I, and as a young man, I was around a lot of older gentlemen who at that time wore bow ties. They were mainly the clip-ons or the hook-ons. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And so I teach that in the academy, what the difference is. But I started wearing bow ties and I became intrigued by that. But,
Mm-hmm.
as time progressed, I got older. I started wearing the regular ties because I was working in corporate and that was pretty much the do. And then I went to a meeting where, amazingly, it was a women's event that I was invited to. So I was probably like one of six other men there, in the midst. I'm still trying to figure out how I got invited. But anyway, I was grateful to be there. The women who were on the platform, what they call angel investors, and each of them had to gross at least $1 million in their business. So their objective for that assignment was to empower the entrepreneurs like myself who were there on what can we do to achieve that particular goal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the ladies, because see, when you're a networker, you listen out for certain key things. What I thought I heard her say was, I'm looking for a woman that is involved in health, beauty care and skincare. And I knew somebody at that time who was a Mary Kay, right? And I said, oh, I know somebody. So I went up to her after the event. I said, listen, I got somebody, that networking part of me, I want to connect you with. This is what they do. And so they gave me their personal number. So I made the connection. And because it wasn't virtual, it was only a phone call, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on the line, I say, hey, this is Willie Tolbert. You mentioned that you needed to be introduced to a woman. Here's a friend that I know that's into the skincare, blah, blah, blah. And she says, while we're on the call, right? Who you are again? And that day I knew I wore a bow tie. I said, well, I'm the black guy with the bow tie. Yes, yes, yes. I remember you. I remember you. So that was one occasion. And then I went to another chamber event. A lawyer was wearing a bow tie and I had a bow tie. So we kind of like, connected. And then I went back looking for him wearing a bow tie. He wasn't there. But people started recognizing me for the bow ties. So I've been wearing bow ties consistently for the last 6 years. I have the regular ties, but I haven't wore one in probably during that time, maybe once. But as a result of the tag and the brand, I felt inspired to get it trademarked because I saw where I was. People may forget your name, but they'll never forget the guy with the bow tie. So I
Yep.
went and got it trademarked, and everything that's there, and that's another thing we share with our clients as well, how to do that. But yes, to answer your question, so yes, that's how the guy with the bow tie came about.
That is amazing, man. I love that story. Um, and I can relate. When I was, um, I had when I bought my business. This is a real quick story. When I bought my IT franchise, I bought an IT franchise back in 2006, and I bought it in Chester County, Pennsylvania. And there weren't a lot of black businesses out there. And I joined 5 different chambers, okay, to basically grow my business because I didn't know anybody out there. I literally didn't know anybody in Chester County. So I went to the chambers. Now, the reality is, I would be one of the only black people out there in all these events. And I would go to 5 to 10 networking events every week. So I got to be known as the networking guy because, one, I was the only black guy there. And two, I was at everyone and I'm being my gregarious self. And before you know it, everybody's like, hey, that's Guy. I saw you at this event. I saw you say I'm everywhere. That's my goal. So the Bowtie Academy. You
Yes.
created this to help entrepreneurs and leaders build for success. And you
Yes.
offer your courses, the networking course, the building your nonprofit course. Um, what inspired you to create this platform, and where are you taking it, and how active are you in just trying to grow that side of the business?
No, I appreciate that. Guy, actually, a lot of what we do today is things we have been doing over the years, but it just wasn't formalized.
Mm-hmm.
So I begin to realize, because I get requests to coach and mentor people, especially when they know how long I've been in business, I've been in the game, so to speak. And so I wanted to put it in a structural format, wherein people can learn how to take these tools, but not only just make a theory. You said something earlier where it's a practicum. Yeah, because we got a lot of knowledge, but what are we doing with the knowledge? So I wanted to be able to make it where it's palatable and easy to understand, that I don't care what age they are, whether they're 8 years old or 80 years old. I want them to feel they're in a safe place, but yet in the same token, they're in a growing place. And I share this, is that I tell a lot of seniors, when I say seniors, I mean those over 65,
Mm-hmm.
in our crew, I tell them, when I go to Cracker Barrel, and they didn't pay me for an announcement, but anyway, when I go to Cracker Barrel, it's for the food and not the rocket ship.
Right. Yep. I hear you.
Yes. So I
Um,
wanted to be empowering and educating.
cool. And I know that you also help business owners with things like trademarks, copyrights, wills, estate planning. That's some serious legacy work. So why is protecting one's legacy so important to you? And I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna let you give it to it.
Well, one is this, is because in our community, we're good at building businesses, we're good at building enterprises and empires. But a lot of times, because we're so focused on building that concern, we don't put all the mechanisms in place on how to safeguard and protect it. So that's one of the reasons why I want to make certain that nonprofit, make certain that business owner, whether you're a startup or a seasoned business owner, yes, keep doing what you're doing, but here's some resources that can help you safeguard it. Because when you get to millions of dollars and even billions, I like to split that in the atmosphere for people. I want to make certain that somebody who has the wherewithal and the knowledge about trademarking and all don't have their team research your company and snatch it from you. Now you get a cease and desist letter,
Right, right.
because I've seen it happen.
And I'm curious, when you work with entrepreneurs and nonprofits, what's the number one thing that they struggle with when it comes to their business, but also in networking?
Well, one is this, and I've been told by a lot of individuals who may have been in business 1 or 2 years. I know I have to really get out there, but I don't really have a comfort zone, because I've worked in corporate so long and I didn't have to do that. I had people that did that for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to give them baby steps and walk them through comfortably, where they can journal and trace how they got to where they're going.
Got you. Got you. And you've coached thousands of people. So, you know what? Give me a success story. One student or client whose networking breakthrough just blew you away. Something that you helped them do, help them meet somebody, or help them get the confidence to go make a connection. And it went from nowhere to everywhere for them.
Well, wow, this is so good. Well, I could take one of my family members. And sometimes that could be the challenge right there. But
Oh, big
because of
time.
that, one of my sisters actually have went from being the quiet, the background, the administrator type person, to where she's out there, and she just launched her first book. And so we're all excited for her. So she saw the value, and now she's introducing me to people who are so major. I'm like, what? So that kind of thing there. And that's a joy when somebody that you poured into now you use this word, reciprocating, and it's coming back to you. That's when you know you're making a real impact.
Yep, I agree 100%, man. When you can pass off your knowledge, and at first it seems like they not even listening, but before you know it, you're like, hold on now, where you get that from?
Yes. Yeah. It's so amazing on that. My grandchildren, I have a 1 year old grandson. 1 year old, watch this, right? We went to a restaurant just recently. Now, before we had left church and we're going to decide to go eat, it was like he's going to go to sleep or whatever. He gets in the restaurant and looked like he perks up. Boom! The waitress come over. It's like he wants to place his order. He's grabbing the menu. I'm like, what? And then with my 9 year old granddaughter, when she was 4 years old, she would literally play like she was a business owner with her play stove and house and all. And she'll come to and say, "You want a hamburger?" Sure, $5. $5? What? Yeah. So, to see that legacy continue where you talked about what is it that we want to do about trademarks and all. Yes, they may not understand that dynamic, but they understand what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Got you. So let's talk about the other side. You have this beautiful blend of spiritual wisdom and business acumen. You've been a pastor for 30 years and you hold a doctorate of theology degree. How does faith play into your networking philosophy?
A great deal. One, it doesn't matter how successful monetarily or academically or even socially a person may be, they need to have a spiritual foundation to keep them grounded because you want to be able to handle success. You want to know how to treat people as you're becoming more successful because too often I've seen people who have achieved some success and then all of a sudden they got the nose up in the air. They don't know how to treat people. So that personality part of them is so rugged and rough. It needs to be refined. So my faith keeps me grounded. Now, when I'm in business, I don't try to proselytize people, but I use it as my grounding, because I realize that everybody may not share my thought process when it comes to that. So I respect people in their perspective, religious beliefs, but yet in the same token, I know who I am and whose I am. So I
Gotcha.
take it from that dynamic. My faith keeps me grounded.
Gotcha. You meet them where they are, but you stay where
Yes.
you're always going to be.
There you go. Yes.
That's so important. And I think on the networking side of business, a lot of people struggle with networking because it feels transactional and even selfish. How do you teach people to network authentically, to build relationships that are rooted in authenticity, service, and purpose, rather than just what can I get from this?
Right. Yeah. Well, first of all, when a baby is born, the baby doesn't come out asking for a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
They don't come out asking for a pacifier. They're asking for a relationship. Who can I feel safe with?
Mm-hmm.
Because one, if you work on building or focus rather on building relationship, you'll know within a matter of moments, is this someone I really want to do business with?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody that looks handsome, look fine and pretty and all of that, you may not necessarily want to do business with them. And I'm quite certain you've encountered those as well. So it's about relationship first and then transaction later.
Yep. I always say, don't get fooled by the fine.
Yes.
Uh, and you talk about helping people discovering their God-given potential. How do you help someone identify their purpose? How does understanding your purpose changed the way that you network?
Well, one, knowing everybody's different. Once, as you build relationship, you get a chance to learn a person. You start learning what ticks them off, what makes them smile, what makes them happy, what is it that they makes them feel comfortable, where they will disclose for you where their pain points are.
Mm,
Because I've discovered, and I'm quite certain you have, because you've been around a while, is that some people allow their accomplishments to be a cover up for them, for protection.
mm-hmm.
But back in the day, when we were taught how to remove the smoke screen and get to really the core of what the real deal is,
Got you.
because you
Yep.
can only put a band-aid on but so long, and sooner or later it's going to work itself off.
That's true. That's true. Um, you work specifically and you work with nonprofit leaders through your building your nonprofit course. What role does networking play in the nonprofit world, and how is it different from business network?
It's the label.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really the label, because in the nonprofit space, they need funders, they need volunteers, they need board people, they need some of the same type of resources as a for-profit do. It's just that it's certain terminologies, certain dynamics that differ, and even especially when it comes to the tax exemption part of it, where in a for-profit look for write-offs, and a nonprofit makes available write-offs.
Right. They have something to offer in addition to um, just trying to be, trying to get business and things like that.
Correct.
So it is a benefit for them to work with the nonprofits, and that has to be part of their message when they're doing their networking.
Yes, exactly. And I encourage, a part of my course also shares with the for profit why they need to build relationships with a nonprofit,
Hmm.
because they can also have a philanthropic arm to their particular entity, just like the Rockefellers, the Kennedys, the Vanderbilts, and all. They have foundations, even though they have a for profit entity.
Right. The same thing with athletes. Most athletes have a nonprofit arm because it just makes sense. When you're making millions of dollars every year, you got to protect it. So having that nonprofit arm helps you to maintain your wealth.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So after 30 years of ministry, coaching, speaking, building businesses, what do you want people to remember about Dr. Willie Tolbert? What impact do you want to leave?
Well, that word you used, I want people to remember the impact that I made in their life.
Okay.
The late Dr. Miles Monroe says the richest place on earth was the grave. And a couple of months right before he passed away, he was being interviewed, and he shared this. I didn't understand it at first, but later, after having time to resonate over it and just think about it a little bit more, he said, "Die empty." And I view it this way. I view God as my creator is a high yield investor. And
Hmm.
I want to make certain that what he's imparted to me, invested into me, that he's getting high yield dividends off of his investment.
I love that, man. That you know what? You are you speak the language that I speak. I try to tell people that I'm doing things every day to try to add to my the side of that's going to get me closer to heaven. So I'm trying to do those good deeds and make sure that always I'm adding to what God wants me to do, so I can look good when I'm ready to go up to the pearly gates.
Yes.
Hey, Willie, let's try some. We're gonna have some fun before we close out.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw some rapid fire questions at you, and I want a quick gut level response. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Best networking advice you ever received?
Be yourself, but be your best self.
Okay. Worst networking mistake you ever made?
Don't go in desperate.
Okay. Your go-to opening line when meeting someone new?
Hello, how are you? Listen, what makes you a celebrity? And everybody's getting in this long line to get your autograph.
Social media networking or in-person networking? Which is more powerful?
Definitely in person.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely in person.
One book every entrepreneur should read?
Think and Grow Rich.
If you could have dinner with any three people, living or dead, to network with, who would they be?
Warren Buffett, Darnell Self, and Denzel Washington.
Okay. And what's the one thing people should do today to improve their network?
One is, I say it this way, when you walk in a room, never allow someone else's light to dim your light.
That's a good one. I like that. I'm going to give you one that's very obvious. Bow ties or regular ties? And why does it matter?
Ooh, because with a bow tie, visualize yourself. You're putting things together. So as you're unwrapping and you saying, who am I? Then you begin to one at a time. You go, you just make your wing, you put it there, and then you come over. And then what is it about coming over? You feel like what was the hurdles, the obstacles that you had to encounter to go and get to where you are? And then what happens is sooner or later you realize, wait a minute, it wasn't as bad as I really thought it was. But now I've been able to put everything together.
That is a fabulous thing. And man, you got to teach me that. I do not know how to tie a bow tie. I only have one and it's a clip on. So I'm going to have to learn from you, brother. All right. Well, Dr. Willie Tolbert, this has been incredible. Your story, your wisdom, your heart for helping people, it all comes through so powerfully. And before we wrap up, I want to make sure our listeners know how to connect with you and learn more about the the Bow Tie Academy. Where can people find you, and what's the best way to connect to you?
Sure. Of course, they can go on my website, www.theguywiththebowtie.com. They can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook, of course. But if they want to reach me directly, they can call 973-277-1752. That's 973-277-1752. And if they reach out to me as a result of your program, I'm going to give them a free gift.
Oh, excellent. Perfect. And if someone is listening right now and they're thinking, I need Willie's help with my business, my nonprofit, or my networking strategy, what should they do? What's their first step?
Schedule a time with me. They get a 15-minute complimentary session. That'll give me opportunity to learn more about them and how we could best serve. So they can just call that number, text me their number, and I'll have my team send out my calendar link and we can schedule from there.
Excellent. Fantastic. Willie, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your journey with us. You're a living example of what happens when you combine purpose, faith, strategic networking, and a servant's heart. Your legacy is already changing lives, and I know this conversation is going to inspire so many people.
Well, thank you so much, Guy, for having me. And I want to say to you, continue doing the great work you're doing because my life is made better because I met you.
I appreciate that so much, brother. And to everyone listening, remember that what Willie shared today, your network is your net worth, but it's not just about what you can get. It's about what you can give, who you can serve, and how you can lift others up. Every connection matters. Every relationship has potential. And somewhere in your network right now is the person who can change your life or the person whose life you're meant to change. So get out there, make that call, send that message, attend that event, and wear that bow tie with pride. This has been Network to Net Worth. I'm Guy Dunn, the career networker. Until next time, keep building, keep connecting, keep growing your network into your net worth. Thanks, folks.